I'm Lauren from Pack Hacker, and in this video we're taking a detailed look at the Fjallraven Kanken Sling shoulder bag, which I've been testing for the last 2 weeks. If you found this video helpful, hit subscribe so we can keep making content to help you travel smarter. Let's dive in. If you're familiar with the Kanken style bag, then this is going to look very, very, very familiar. So I actually have a Kanken down here, which I will pull up so you can look at them side by side. This is essentially just a mini Kanken, and that's really great if you love this style, but there are definitely a few like functionality features that are a little bit more difficult to use in the smaller version. So just wanted to give you a quick little peek at this over here, but then I will just put it back down out of the way. So looking at the outside here, we have the same material as on the regular Kanken. We have the vinyl on F and YKK zippers. Everything's pretty much the same. You can see even on the little zipper pulls, we have a little Fjallraven logo there, or the text, and then the logo on the front. And then on the back here, just nice and simple, nothing too crazy going on. So the biggest difference, obviously, between the regular Kanken and this tiny one is that this tiny one is insanely small. But in terms of features, they are pretty similar, so we can get into looking at those right now. The harness system, instead of being a backpack, it is just a single shoulder strap. So this attaches on either side and just is like very simple up at the top. It's like a nylon material, and it's a little bit on the rougher side, like to the touch, but it is still pretty comfortable. I never really felt like I needed extra padding or anything like that. And then you do have two carry handles up top here that buckle together to keep them in place if you wanted to carry it like this. However, I did sort of miss the ability to tuck the strap away, just because I feel like sometimes I wanted it where I didn't need this extra strap here, and I just wanted to grab it by the handle and like do a quick little like carry or whatever, just grab it and go. But I didn't really have that ability. What I did do is, and this is kind of a little bit of a spoiler alert, but there is a back pocket back here, and sometimes I would stick this, I'd kind of like gather it together, stick it in that back pocket, and then zip it up as much as I could. It only zips from one side, so you can't do it perfectly. But then I could just grab it, you know, if I was like going in and out of somewhere and I just didn't really want to like put it on and off my body. But in terms of where it is super simple, nothing too crazy on this back panel either. There's no like additional padding or anything like that, but I don't really feel like you need it. There's nothing too crazy to report about how you wear this either. I personally prefer it as a crossbody, and then I keep it either on my front here, or I will shift it to my back and just sort of leave it back there. I felt like it was less imposing on the back just because it is like a fairly chunky, like size, I guess you could say. But if you wanted to, you could also just wear it over one shoulder. I felt like this was a little bit too loose. It doesn't really feel like it's necessarily going to slip off, but it's just a little bit less secure than if you were to wear it as a crossbody. But there are no straps. It doesn't convert into a backpack or anything like that. Getting into the secondary compartments, there are a few different options for where you can store your gear. So the first one, the most obvious, is this front little pocket, and this is a pocket that you'll see on the larger size or regular size Kanken, but with this one here, there is like a little fabric welt. You open it up and then you can stick your gear inside. So like I have in here headphones, and then chapstick, and then a little Jolly Rancher for a snack. But the one thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way with this pocket is just how hard it is to get into. The size was okay because it is really great for these small items. You can't put like a wallet in here unless your wallet's super, super tiny, but access is really difficult. So you can see this like fabric welt here covers the zipper pretty sizably, and it makes it a little bit hard to open and shut that compartment. And then additionally, once you actually get to these edges here, because they are squared off, they can be difficult to get around. And so I found myself like fussing with this a lot. So in here is where I put things that I didn't want access to like super, super often. But I do wish that there was a way to, I wish it was a little bit easier to get in and out of this pocket, just because it was a little bit difficult. The material as well is pretty stiff, so I found that while it's nice because it holds its structure pretty well, it seemed a little bit overkill for a bag of this size, just because these little pockets and things were so difficult to get into. I felt like the material kind of made that a little bit harder as well. On the sides, we have two water bottle pockets, or at least on the regular Kanken, they are water bottle pockets. Here, they're pretty, honestly, I didn't find a use for them at all. They seem to be more aesthetic than anything. They're too small for a phone. If you put chapstick in there, it's gonna fall all the way down to the bottom. Headphones could do the same. So I largely just ignored that these existed. If you can find something to put in there, that's really great. It wasn't really functional for me. And then on the back here, we have what is in the regular size, like the laptop compartment, but this can fit in 8-inch tablet. So in order to get into that back panel, you just unclip those two handles and then you unzip this. And honestly, this is the pocket that I wanted to use the most out of any pocket in this bag because it was so easy to get open and shut. Because with the main compartment, which we'll get into shortly, there's another fabric well and these really squared off sides, which makes it pretty difficult to get into. So this pocket here is where I would keep like my phone or my wallet if I had that, if I wanted to put that in there just for like quick access, but sometimes I put that in the main compartment. But that is really like for quick access, this is where you're going to want that gear to go. If it was filled with a lot of bulky stuff, it could pop out on this side, but I didn't really notice it too much. I feel like what's nice about the material being so thick is that it really it dampens, I guess, really sharp edges of any gear that you have. And so that's really nice. Even though it does make the bag a little bit stiff, sometimes that does work in your favor. So in terms of external storage, there are a few different options, one of them being the most functional out of the three. So now on to the main compartment. As I mentioned, there is a little gusset here that makes it a little bit difficult to get to the zipper. So it is a dual zip, which is nice so that you can leave these zippers pretty much anywhere you want them. I left them primarily at the top because I found it a little bit difficult to get to them when they were down on either side. And actually, I also found it pretty difficult to just get around these corners in general. You can see me kind of like, if I just am unzipping, right, like this is on my body and I just want to get into this bag, it can be a little bit difficult. So sometimes I would just open it a little bit at the top and just sort of like pull it and bend it to how I want it to be. So in general, like I found myself not wanting to put anything in the main compartment, which is very inconvenient because this is the largest amount of space there is in the bag. So you can see I've got like my keys in here, I've got a wallet and then a buff, but there is a lot of extra space in here that you can use for, you know, let's say you wanted to do like you were carrying a bunch of layers in the winter or something like that, like that's gonna be a really great spot for those items. But if you are a minimal carrier, this might not be the best option for you. Another great thing about this is this back slip pocket. I feel like that's a nice addition for something you wanna keep more secure, like if you have a passport or something like that. That's a really nice spot for that. And then it's pretty simple in there in terms of at least being very similar to like the other Kanken style. You just sort of load it up as you need. If you do have a bunch of really tiny items, I recommend using like little tiny pouches or something like that just to sort of keep your stuff organized. But once everything's in here, it all just sort of falls to the bottom. So you can see it just sort of creates like a little, like you just stack everything up as you need it. And with like the backpack, it's a little bit bigger, and so I feel like you can actually get in there and stack things up, and it, I don't know, it feels a little bit more supported. Your gear's a little bit bigger, but with a bag like this being like you're going to be carrying a lot of smaller items, having everything stacked up and then having access be a little bit difficult for me wasn't super great, because then, you know, I'm looking in this bag and I want to get to what I need. Maybe it's hard to get around this corner, or I don't want to open it all the way, and then I'm kind of sifting around for the stuff that I need. I just found access to be a little bit clunky in this main compartment. So in all, it is a really cute bag. I think it has like a really unique style to it. I mean, it's not unique because it is just the Kanken backpack, but smaller, but unique in the sense that it is just kind of like a cute little mini backpack that you keep as like a side bag. And I think that has value, but for me, the accessibility of getting to all your gear inside was a little bit too clunky to make this super useful for me. So there you have it, the Fjallraven Kanken Sling shoulder bag. Thanks for keeping it here at Pack Hacker, your guide to smarter travel, and we'll see you in the next one.